My destined partner returned home after 6 years. I waited at the door with our son in my arms, but he pulled a pregnant woman out of his car. I knew the man who once had eyes only for me had betrayed his promise and our family.
Welcome to Luna's Romance Stories. Read the entire novel in one go. Message or comment to tell me what kind of story you'd like to read. Subscribe to the channel for daily updates. Luna reminds you, the story begins now.
I was typing the same sentence for the third time when I suddenly heard a soft knocking sound coming from the bedroom window. My hand froze in midair, and I frowned. I paused the music, listened intently, and sure enough, I heard the sound again. Hearing the sound, my heart skipped a beat. I pushed my chair back and walked to the window. When I drew back the curtains, a bright smile spread across my face. Asher? I shook my head and opened the window as I spoke. A cool night breeze rushed in. I thought we said goodbye this morning. Shouldn't you be halfway to the training field by now? I raised an eyebrow and asked him. He gave me a meaningful smile, a smile that always made my heart race. Strictly speaking, yes, but I want to see you one more time and give you something. There is no harm in staying a few more minutes. As he spoke, he handed me a small box. I took the box, my smile freezing slightly. What is this? I asked him, and he laughed. Just open it. I carefully lifted the lid, gasped, and tears instantly welled up in my eyes. I gazed at the exquisite silver ring, elegant and simple, a gemstone sparkling in the moonlight. Ash. I spoke softly, and he reached out and gently tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, then cupped my face in his warm palm. He took the ring out of the box, then pulled something else from his shirt. I saw a ring hanging on a chain, and he placed the two rings side by side. When I saw the initials of our names engraved on the rings with a heart set in the center, my throat tightened. These are mine. I specially commissioned them to make them a pair. This is my promise to you, Sienna. I promise I will return. When I return, you will be my Luna, whether we are partners or not. I don't care what fate has in store for me. I love you, Sienna. I love you, and I will always love you. You are my everything. I opened my mouth but couldn't utter a single word. My heart pounded and shattered in an instant, so without speaking, I leaned forward and kissed his lips fiercely. He kissed me back, and our kiss contained all the unspoken words. When he climbed in through the window, my fingers gripped his shirt tightly, and he wrapped his arms around me as if he never wanted to let go. The kiss deepened rapidly, burning and urgent, as if we both wanted to hold on to this moment forever. We moved instinctively, perfectly in sync, just like always. 1 second we were by the window, the next we were entangled on my bed, breathing heavily, lips swollen, hearts pounding. Asher stepped back slightly, breathing rapidly, his forehead pressed against mine. We should stop. He spoke in a low voice, and I shook my head, gently stroking his chin with my fingers again. Number, I don't want to stop. He kissed me again, but this time it was passionate and deep. There was no haste or rush. The kiss contained all our feelings, and he quickened his pace. After that, everything around us seemed to disappear. At that moment, only the two of us existed, and everything else was irrelevant. The only things that mattered were the sound of our intertwined breaths and the warmth of our skin touching. It wasn't rushed, nor was it perfect, but it belongs to us. Later, we snuggled together in bed, my head resting on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. He quietly and lazily drew circles on my back. I looked up and saw the expression on his face, and immediately frowned. Are you all right? Did I do something wrong? I asked anxiously, trying to sit up straight while he looked at me with confusion. No, that is great. Where are you going? He asked me questions while pulling me down. I am just wondering how I can live without you. My heart skipped a beat when he said that. You must be so busy with training that you won't have time to think about me. You'll be fine. He shook his head. I will do what I should do. But this, is it you? He put his arm around mine tightly. Sai, you are my home, wherever I go, Without you by my side, everything feels wrong. My throat tightened, and I gently kissed his chest, trying to suppress the pain welling up in his words. You will come back, I said in a low voice. He nodded and shifted slightly to get a better look at me. I will. I swear I will. But more importantly, I will come back for you. Not just for the title, not for responsibility, but for us. His thumb gently brushed across my cheek. I can't imagine a future without you, he said softly, and tears welled up in my eyes. But I forced a smile. Then don't do it. He leaned down and kissed me gently again. Sienna, you are my only one. You always have been. I didn't answer him, but nestled against his chest, closed my eyes, and let his steady heartbeat lull me to sleep. 5 years later, honey, it is today. Your dad is finally coming home. I knelt before Aiden and spoke softly, brushing away a stubborn strand of blonde hair from his forehead. My youngest son looked up at me, his big brown eyes, so like his father's, filled with innocence. He didn't fully understand what today meant to him, its weight, the long years that had passed, or the lingering pain in my chest that had been silently born since the day Asher left. But I will cherish this moment forever for both of us. I smoothed the collar of his little blue shirt, which had a wolf pattern printed on it. He looked absolutely perfect. Do I look like a mini alpha? He asked with a serious expression, puffing out his small chest. I suppressed a laugh and pinched his cheek. You look even more handsome. You look like my little alpha. I said that, and he grinned, then spun around to add to the dramatic effect. I think it is time for me to take charge. After he finished speaking, I chuckled softly and brushed his hair with my hand. Honey, let's not get too excited yet. After he straightened his sleeves, I stood up and walked to the mirror, wanting to check my appearance one last time. I deliberately wore light makeup, let my hair curl smoothly down my back, and wore the green dress that I had only worn once. This color always makes my eyes look brighter and always drives Asher crazy. I heard the front door creak open and then someone shouted, "Yeah?" My best friend's voice drifted down the hallway. In my bedroom. I smoothed out my skirt while dialing back the number. A deep whistle pierced the room. Damn it, Sai, who are you trying to impress? I turned around, rolled my eyes, and saw Ava walk into my room. Her reddish, brown curly hair was casually tied into a bun, and she had her usual smug smile on her face. Nobody's here, I spoke, though I could feel my cheeks burning. Ava gave me a sly smile and crossed her arms. Of course. It is just a normal day. I dressed up nicely and curled my hair. Stop. I chuckled softly and shook my head. He is really coming back, isn't he? She asked softly, and I nodded. Yes, he's finally going home, Ava. I really want to be by his side. I spoke softly, and Ava's playful expression vanished, replaced by a gentle one. She tilted her head slightly, her gaze sweeping over me, her expression both thoughtful and gentle. You are so beautiful, C, really. If that idiot didn't realize how precious he is when he first saw you, you want to beat up Alpha's son. I finished speaking for her with a slight smile. Right on the chin, she said it without hesitation. I laughed again and glanced at Aiden, who was trying to put on his shoes while hopping around. Honey, do you need any help over there? I got it. He snorted, stuck out his tongue, and struggled with the Velcro strap. My shoes are really unreliable today, Ava scoffed. Obviously, they weren't notified. Today is a big day for the newborn Alpha baby. Aiden completed his mission, head held high, a bright smile on his face. I am ready. May I drive? He asked excitedly, and I shook my head. No, absolutely not. Besides, we're walking there. It is not far. After I finished speaking, he sighed. Okay, but when I finally become an alpha man, I'll buy a motorcycle, he said seriously. Ava grinned, bent down, and ruffled his hair. Make sure there is a baby seat in the car that your mother uses. He puffed out his cheeks in feigned frustration and stomped his foot. I am almost 5 years old. We both laughed, and I pulled him up to my waist and hugged him tightly. Let's go. I want him to see his son, even if he doesn't know him yet. Ava nodded, her expression unreadable for a moment. Are you sure you are ready? I shrugged. A number. Actually, it isn't. But I have to do it anyway. After I finished speaking, we walked out the door, a glimmer of hope igniting in our hearts, like the calm before a storm. We headed to the packaging plant together, weaving through the crowds to get to the front. The news spread quickly. The future Alpha Asher Gray was finally going home. I held Aiden tightly in my arms, my gaze sweeping across the driveway as the cars pulled into their parking spots. A sudden, primal urge stirred within me. I could sense her restlessness. She began pacing back and forth. I frowned. What is wrong, Ellie? I asked her, puzzled. What had made her so excited? I don't know. I just have a feeling that something is about to happen. She responded with a mumble. Before I could respond, I saw a black SUV drive up the hillside. I felt like I couldn't breathe. It is him, I whispered excitedly, pulling Aiden closer. The sea view stopped, and the door clicked open. I held my breath and stared intently at the SVU, waiting for him to get off. Just then, the door opened, and an enticing aroma wafted out like a shockwave. Companion. Ellie's voice howled wildly and excitedly in my mind. My legs almost gave way, but I steadied myself. I simply couldn't believe it. He was my friend. A warm feeling welled up inside me, and I took a step forward, a bright smile spreading across my face. He walked out slowly, his whole body tense. His gaze swept over the crowd, but Asher didn't even glance at me. I hesitated for a moment, feeling hurt and confused. Ash, I said in a low voice. I watched him walk around to the back of the car and open the passenger door. A slender hand reached out from inside the car, and Asher grasped it. My smile vanished, and my heart sank. My wolf howled in disbelief as a woman stepped out of the SUV. She was tall, stunningly beautiful, with long, jet-black hair and radiant skin. Then, the final blow came. The woman turned slightly to the side and placed her hand on her round, noticeably protruding belly. I was having trouble breathing, and everything around me began to blur. The crowd, the noise, even Ava's hand that was tightly gripping my arm became indistinct. My partner, the boy who promised to love me forever and come back to me, has returned. But he returned with other people. Asher's viewpoint, the hum of the engine, did nothing to drown out my thoughts. 6 years have passed, and for some reason this return journey feels even more so than when I left. As we walked toward the livestock shed, I saw a crowd already gathering, and the tension on my shoulders intensified. I had been back in Blackwood Town for less than a minute, and I was already feeling restless. I slowly parked the car near the Wolfpack's enclosure and instinctively glanced at the crowd gathered on the lawn. Just then, I saw her. Ocher. I gripped the steering wheel tightly with both hands to stop them. She stood a few meters away, sunlight streaming into her golden hair, her green dress perfectly outlining her figure. Her beauty made me swallow hard. I hadn't seen her for 6 years, but she still amazed me. I forced myself to look away and at the little boy in her arms. He was her partner's son. These words tasted bitter, and even now they still make my stomach churn and my heart tighten. Don't stare for too long. Asher, she is not yours. She never was. I swallowed hard again, forcing myself to look away and reminding myself that I had no right to look at her like that. I had no right to feel this empty pain in my chest. No longer. Bianca's hand brushed across my arm from the seat next to me, her round belly rubbing against my elbow. As she shifted her body, it was another sharp reminder that Sienna would never belong to me. Hey, are you okay? Bianca's voice interrupted my thoughts. I glanced at her and saw her looking me over, one hand gently resting on her protruding belly. I forced a smile and nodded. I am fine. I am just preoccupied. Don't worry about me. Are you all right? She nodded and chuckled softly. Except for feeling like I am smuggling watermelons. Perfect. I smiled faintly, using that as an excuse to put everything else out of my mind. I needed to focus my attention on her, on the child, not on that woman in the crowd holding a child that wasn't mine. I turned off the engine, got out of the car, and then it suddenly dawned on me. Warm herbs, wild jasmine, rainwater after a downpour. I can tell whose scent it is without even looking at it. Even through everything, I can still smell her scent. Sienna, she is my destined partner. It felt like being punched hard in the stomach. Every nerve in my body was tugging at her. My instincts screamed, making me turn around, bridge the distance between us, cup her face in my hands, and never let her go again. My wolfish rage roared as I charged at her, howling in my mind, tearing at her body with my claws. But I did not give in. I forced myself to accept this connection, locking it firmly deep within my heart, completely ignoring the burning sensation in my chest from the effort. Even if she is your destined one, she already has someone else in her heart. I silently reminded myself. I walked around to the car, gritted my teeth, and still refused to look back at her. When I walked up to Bianca, she was looking at me with a gentle and expectant smile. I opened the door for her. Careful. I spoke softly, reaching out to help her out of the car. She took my hand, looked up at me, and smiled, completely unaware of the fierce struggle raging within me. As she got out, her free hand unconsciously touched her stomach, and once again, I had to force myself to keep my gaze on her. I struggled to suppress the urge to look in Sienna's direction. She was right there, close enough that I could see her clearly with just a slight turn of my head. But I didn't. I can't because, if I did that, I know I wouldn't be able to control myself. The scent still lingered in the air, tugging at me like a rope. But I focused my attention on the excited buzz of the crowd and Bianca's fingers gripping mine tightly. Bianca gripped my hand tightly. I glanced at her, forced a smile to hide my inner turmoil. I closed the door, and the crowd began to surge toward us. The crowd was noisy, and people from all directions were greeting me and calling my name. Amidst the surrounding chaos, I realized her presence wasn't near, and I involuntarily looked up. My gaze immediately fell on her. Sienna remained standing in the same spot, but her smile vanished. She froze, staring blankly at me, as if I had instantly disoriented her. She wrapped her arms tightly around the boy, pressed his head against her shoulders, and then, without hesitation, turned away. She hugged the boy and quickly made her way through the crowd. The boy held her tightly, but had already looked up. His eyes met mine, and my heart skipped a beat. I recognized her as Ava. She chased after me, calling her name, which drew my attention away from the boy. Ava called again, but Sienna didn't slow down. Something deep inside me surged forward, and every instinct told me I should chase after her, stop her, and explain to her. But my feet were rooted to the spot and I couldn't move. The low growl of a wolf echoed in my mind. "Go after her? You idiot. Make her yours," he roared. His voice filled with anger and despair, and I gritted my teeth. "No, I can't. We made our choice a long time ago, and there's no going back now. She belongs to someone else. She has his child, and we have to consider Bianca and our child." I finished speaking coldly, and then hung up the phone. As I watched her disappear from sight, my jaw involuntarily tightened. For the first time in many years, since that day, I feel like I can't breathe. The crowd surged in, blocking my view. But the scene was deeply imprinted in my mind. Sienna walked away without saying a word. She was with her son, and he never looked back at me. Asher's viewpoint, the greetings mingled together. So many faces, so many voices. I forced a smile, shook hands, and nodded in response to words I barely heard, because my thoughts were still on her. On Sienna, Bianca's hand gripped mine tightly. It was the only thing I could hold on to in the moment. I introduced her. the words slipping out mechanically and hollowly. The crowd gasped at her belly, congratulating us and offering their best wishes. I answered politely with a smile, then quickly said goodbye, and we both left. I can't do it now. I led Bianca into the packaging workshop, up the stairs, and into one of the guest rooms. At last. She sighed happily, glad that she could finally rest. I helped her lie down on the bed. I looked down at her, and she smiled at me. She was radiant and looked very happy, which made me feel a pang of guilt and my heart tighten. I smiled at her and gently kissed her forehead. Take a break, and maybe take a nap. I'll have someone bring your things up, and you can unpack when you feel more comfortable. Liam's opinion, the greetings mingled together. So many faces, so many voices. I forced a smile, shook hands, and nodded in response to words I barely heard, because my thoughts were still on her. On Nora Lena's hand gripped mine tightly. It was the only thing I could hold on to in that moment. I introduced her, the words slipping out mechanically and hollowly. The crowd gasped at her belly, congratulating us and offering their best wishes. I answered politely with a smile, then quickly said goodbye, and we both left. I can't do it now. I led Elena into the packaging room, up the stairs, and into one of the guest rooms. At last, she sighed happily, glad that she could finally rest. I helped her lie down on the bed. I looked down at her, and she smiled at me. She was radiant and looked very happy, which made me feel a pang of guilt. I smiled at her and gently kissed her forehead. You should relax and rest first. Maybe even take a nap. I'll have someone bring your things up, and you can unpack them slowly once you've rested. She nodded gratefully, one hand on her stomach, leaning against the pillow. Thank you, Liam. This package is exactly as you described. I can't wait to meet everyone properly. I nodded reluctantly, my thoughts already drifting far away. Rest now, I'll be back soon. Leaving the room, I walked down the corridor, each step adding to the weight of the day. The wolf den was a hive of activity. Servants bustling about, elders conversing in hushed tones. But my mind was filled with Nora, the expression on her face as she turned to leave, clutching her son tightly, remains vivid in my memory. My wolf lurked in my mind, a constant reminder of the bond I had been trying to ignore. I went to the study, hoping to find a quiet place to be alone, but found my father there, engrossed in studying a map. He looked up, his face showing both pride and worry. Liam, son, the return of the wolves is a great thing. Elena looks beautiful. The wolves are all captivated by her. I sat across from him, rubbing my temples. She does look very much like her. But father, seeing Nora again will be much harder than I imagined. He leaned back and sighed. I knew it. You two were inseparable before you went to training. But life goes on. You now have your own responsibilities. You are about to become parents. These words stung me, reminding me of the choices I'd made over the years. Elena had been my lonely companion during training. She understood my pressure. Our relationship had evolved from friendship into a more stable romance, especially after she found out she was pregnant. But Nora, she was my precious darling, the future I'd longed for. I need to talk to her, I said in a low voice, to get things straight. The father nodded slowly. Be careful, Liam. Don't reopen old wounds unnecessarily. Nora's perspective, the afternoon sun streamed through the curtains as I sat at the kitchen table, gazing at the silver ring on my finger. A gift from Liam years ago. Caleb played nearby, building a tower with blocks, completely oblivious to the turmoil in my heart. Mia made tea while glancing at me with concern. You haven't said a word since you came back. Tell me, Nora. I turned the ring, memories flooding back. He brought her back, Mia. She is pregnant. He made so many promises. How could he do this? Mia placed a cup in front of me and then sat down. I don't know. Training can change people, but that is no excuse. You kept waiting for him, kept hoping, and now it has turned out like this. Caleb looked up, his bright eyes filled with curiosity. Mom, was that person I met today my dad? He looked at me strangely. I gasped. I had never told Caleb about Liam and didn't want him to misunderstand. No, honey. He is Mommy's old friend. Go wash up and get some snacks. After he ran off, Mia whispered. Nora, Caleb looks exactly like him. The wolves will find out sooner or later. What if Liam finds out? Panic surged through me, but I forced it down. He won't. He has his own family now. I saw him help her out of the car. So gentle, so caring, as if I had never existed. That night, the wolves gathered for a welcome dinner, while I stayed home claiming I was exhausted. But I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. That bond pulled me back, like a soft whisper from the depths of my soul, reminding me that Liam was my destined partner. Why now, after all this time? Liam's opinion, the dinner party had a festive atmosphere, but I couldn't shake off the emptiness inside. Elena chatted happily with the others, easily joining in, while my thoughts drifted to Nora's cottage. After dinner, I quietly left and strolled along the familiar starry path. I knocked softly on the door, my heart pounding. Nora opened it, her expression wary. Liam, what do you want? Can we talk, please? She hesitated for a moment, then stepped aside. Inside the room, Caleb peeked out, waved shyly, and then Mia pulled him away. We sat in the living room in silence. Nora, I never meant to hurt you. The training was too tough. Elena and I, it started as mutual support, then developed into a closer relationship. But seeing you today, you are my partner. I felt it the moment I came back. Her eyes widened at first, then narrowed. Your partner? You brought back a pregnant woman? Liam, how long have you been with her? Am I just a backup plan? I shook my head, my words filled with pain. Number, I loved you, and I still do. But I thought you had moved on. I heard some rumors that you found someone else. She smiled bitterly and said, Rumors. I waited, Liam. I waited for years. When I found out I was pregnant with your child, I raised him alone, always thinking you would come back as promised. Liam's opinion, the greetings mingled together, so many faces, so many voices. I forced a smile, shook hands, and nodded in response to words I barely heard, because my thoughts were still on her. On Nora, Lena's hand gripped mine tightly. It was the only thing I could hold on to in that moment. I introduced her, the words slipping out mechanically and hollowly. The crowd gasped at her belly, congratulating us and offering their best wishes. I answered politely with a smile, then quickly said goodbye, and we both left. I can't do it now. I led Elena into the packaging room, up the stairs, and into one of the guest rooms. At last, she sighed happily, glad that she could finally rest. I helped her lie down on the bed. I looked down at her, and she smiled at me. She was radiant and looked very happy, which made me feel a pang of guilt. I smiled at her and gently kissed her forehead. You should relax and rest first. Maybe even take a nap. I'll have someone bring your things up, and you can unpack them slowly once you've rested. She nodded gratefully, placing a hand on her stomach and leaning against the pillow. Thank you, Liam. This package is exactly as you described. I can't wait to meet everyone properly. I nodded reluctantly, my thoughts already drifting far away. Rest now, I'll be back soon. Leaving the room, I walked down the corridor, each step adding to the weight of the day. The wolf den was a hive of activity. Servants bustling about, elders conversing in hushed tones. But my mind was filled with Nora. The expression on her face as she turned to leave, clutching her son tightly, remains vivid in my memory. My wolf lurked in my mind, a constant reminder of the bond I had been trying to ignore. I went to the study, hoping to find a quiet place to be alone, but found my father there, engrossed in studying a map. He looked up, his face showing both pride and worry. Liam, son, the return of the wolves is a great thing. Elena looks beautiful. The wolves all love her. I sat across from him, rubbing my temples. She does look very much like her, but father, seeing Nora again will be much harder than I imagined. He leaned back and sighed. I knew it. You two were inseparable before you went to training, but life goes on. You now have your own responsibilities. You are about to become parents." These words stung me, reminding me of the choices I'd made over the years. Elena had been my lonely companion during training. She understood my pressure. Our relationship had evolved from friendship into a more stable romance, especially after she found out she was pregnant. But Nora, she was my precious darling, the future I'd longed for. "I need to talk to her," I said in a low voice, "to get things straight." The father nodded slowly. "Be careful, Liam, don't reopen old wounds unnecessarily." Nora's perspective, Liam's return was pure torture. Elena, radiant and pregnant, seemed innocent and quickly won everyone's hearts. But behind closed doors, she began to manipulate things behind the scenes, initially subtly, then gradually escalating to open accusations, ultimately enraging Liam and turning him against me. The incident started simply. Elena organized a group lunch to boost everyone's relationships. I went reluctantly, staying alone and watching Caleb play with the other children. After lunch, Elena pulled Liam aside, her voice trembling, feigning hurt. "Liam, I didn't want to say this, but Nora cornered me earlier. She said I was just playing around, that the child would never be accepted because I wasn't born of the wolves. It scared me. Our child will suffer." Later that afternoon, as I watched Caleb chasing butterflies in the public garden, Liam's eyes hardened. "Nora, what is wrong with you? Elena's trying so hard to fit in, and you are attacking her like this. She is pregnant. The stress will hurt the baby." I blinked in shock and stood up from the bench. "Liam, I never said anything like that. We've barely spoken all day. She is lying." He crossed his arms, his face full of disappointment. "Why did she lie? She is new here, very vulnerable. But you've always been so good. Or was it all an act? If you are jealous, say so, but don't take it out on her." The nearby Wolfpack members whispered amongst themselves, scrutinizing me with their eyes. My cheeks burned with shame, and the bond between us twisted painfully. "Jealousy. You left me without a word, and then came back with her. I've been waiting for you, Liam." "Fine, whatever." I picked up Caleb, turned, and left, tears stinging my eyes. Injustices followed one after another. A week later, while preparing for the Wolfpack ritual, a bunch of sacred herbs disappeared from the storeroom. Later that day, Elena found it in the garden shed of my cabin and tearfully handed it to Liam before the elders. I saw Nora near the storeroom earlier, looking very upset. I didn't pay attention then, but I only realized it now. Maybe she wanted to sabotage the ritual because of me. That night, Liam barged into my house uninvited while Caleb was having dinner. He yelled at me, "Nora, this is sabotage. Elena saw you. You hate me so much that you want to ruin the Wolfpack's traditions. Our ancestors' blessings depended on these rituals. What if something happens because of you?" Caleb looked up, his eyes wide. Sensing the tense atmosphere, I told him and Mia to go back to their room. "Liam, I wasn't near that storage room at all. Elena is framing me. Can't you see? She wants you to be against me." He shook his head, pacing angrily. "Pattern. You've been like this ever since I came back. This is pattern. Elena is innocent. She just wants to settle down here, but you've made it impossible for her to move an inch. If this continues, for everyone's safety, I have no choice but to restrict your involvement with the Wolfpack." With that, he stormed off, leaving me alone, trembling with a mixture of anger and heartbreak. The accusations escalated. Elena claimed I ignored her pleas for help during her pregnancy, leaving her feeling isolated and helpless. Liam berated me at a parliamentary meeting. "Nora, have some compassion. Elena is carrying a future heir. Your cold-heartedness is unacceptable." On another occasion, she accidentally overheard me speaking ill of Mia, resulting in Liam banning me from family gatherings. "I won't allow you to spoil the mood. Elena's health is the most important thing." Every accusation gnawed at my soul like a knife. The man I once loved was now a puppet whispered in her ear. Our relationship was like an unhealable wound, excruciatingly painful. But his trust in her, not in me, became the final straw. On a stormy night, Elena accused me of drugging her tea to cause her premature labor. Liam arrived, soaking wet, his eyes blazing with rage. "Nora, this was intentional assault. Elena almost lost her baby. How much lower will you go?" I stood at my doorstep, soaked to the bone by the torrential rain, utterly dejected. "Liam, it's all a lie, but you never believed me. You chose her, abandoning us, abandoning everything." He turned away, his silence louder than thunder. Disheartened, I couldn't stay. The rain poured down, and I wrapped Caleb inside my coat, holding his little hand tightly. "Mommy, it is so wet outside," he mumbled. But I whispered, "Sweetie, we're going on an adventure." We fled into the night, the storm reflecting my despair. After walking several miles, Caleb's forehead burned, and his cries grew weak. "Mommy, it is so hot," he cried, collapsing into my arms, a high fever taking hold. I held him, terrified, the rain blurring my vision until darkness engulfed us. Damien's view amidst the howling storm, I led my patrol near the border, my alpha instinct constantly alert. A faint cry pierced the rain. A child. In agony, I transformed and followed the sound, finding a woman lying on the ground, cradling a boy in her arms, both soaked to the bone and unconscious. Her scent was palpable, her partner, and that boy, so familiar as if from my own blood. I took them to the nearest hospital in the kingdom, where medical staff rushed to their aid. The child had a persistent high fever and urgently needed treatment. Just as they were preparing for a blood transfusion, the tests revealed that he had a rare blood type, a perfect match for mine. "Your Majesty," the doctor whispered. "This child, he is your son." Memories flooded back, 6 years ago at a grand banquet. A beautiful woman stumbled drunkenly into my room. We spent a passionate night together. Her touch ignited my soul. However, at dawn, chaos descended. A pack of wolves launched an attack. I hastily left, leaving a note presumably unread. When I returned, she was gone. I searched everywhere, but to no avail. Now she is here, Nora, my destined partner and our son. Nora's perspective when I woke up. I found myself lying in a hospital bed, with a tall, imposing man, Damien, the king of Alpha, sitting beside me. "Your son is stable," he said softly. "I found you in the storm." We were both grateful and apprehensive as he explained how he had saved us. Over the next few days, Damien visited frequently, bringing toys for Caleb and making sure we felt safe. His care for us remained constant. He told Caleb stories, held my hand during checkups, and his presence was a soothing balm for our souls. After Caleb recovered, Damien confessed. "At the banquet 6 years ago, you walked into my room. That was me, Nora, not Liam. I left because of an emergency, but I've been looking for you ever since. You are my partner and Caleb. He is our son." After the initial shock, everything became clear. The hazy memories pieced together. Liam wasn't even there that night. I had been misunderstanding all along, which led to our unhappy marriage. Damien's companionship deepened our bond. Every morning he would bring breakfast, telling stories of the kingdom while watching Caleb play. In the afternoons, we would stroll in the palace gardens, him always holding me close, protecting me. "No one will ever hurt you again," he would whisper, his possessiveness evident in his tender touches and envious glances at the courtiers. The warmth of our bond grew stronger with each passing day. We laughed together at Caleb's antics, and he gently comforted me when I wept for the past. One evening, by the fire, he knelt down on one knee. "From that night on, I have loved you. Let me prove it to you every day." His kiss sealed my love. I was deeply moved by his strength, kindness, and loyalty. Liam's opinion months later, I showed up uninvited at Damien's engagement party, only to find Elena had confessed her lies, and I was filled with despair. Seeing Nora with him was like a knife to my heart. "Nora, please. I was wrong. Come back." She stood firmly beside Damien. "Liam, you've confused us." Damien pulled her closer and kissed her passionately. Their love was obvious. My pleas were ignored, and the guards forcibly dragged me away. Nora's perspective, the banquet concluded successfully, and we exchanged vows amidst cheers. With Damien and Caleb, our family is complete. Love has blossomed anew, and the future is bright and secure. Nora's perspective, the first thing I noticed in the hospital was the smell. The smell of pine and a storm, steady as a heartbeat. Then I saw the person connected to that smell, Damien, the king of Alpha, huddled in a plastic chair that looked comically small in his size. He wasn't tall, but he quietly occupied the space, as if gravity had decided to hold him there firmly. "Your son is stable," he said in a low voice, so low that the machine dared not beep. "I've pulled you both out of the river." I should have been afraid of a stranger who could carry 2 half-drowned corpses through a hurricane. However, I felt my guard gradually dissipate, like ice cracking, when the sun finally shines on it. From then on, he came every morning, never bringing flowers. Flowers were too delicate for wolves, but rather small, carefully chosen items, a wooden puzzle for Caleb, and the honey tea jar I'd casually mentioned before. He read to my son in a deep voice that made the boy's eyelids flutter slightly, half asleep, as if under a spell. When the nurse changed Caleb's bandages, Damien's hand found mine, his thumb gently stroking my knuckles until the stinging subsided. I was waiting for him to slip up. Alpha wouldn't take pity on Omega. But as the days and weeks went by, his only response was the calm in his eyes when Caleb called him the storyteller. One afternoon, the boy, now stronger, staggered to the window. Damien hoisted him onto his shoulder, pointed to the palace spires outside the glass window, and said, "That is home, little wolf. Go back when you are ready." Caleb's laughter, at first faint, then bright as flint, stirred something within me. I hadn't heard that kind of laughter since Liam's accusations, since the word whore was etched into my skin with every slam of the door. That night, after Caleb fell asleep, Damien lingered, reluctant to leave. The corridor lights cast dappled shadows and golden light on his face. "6 years ago," he said, "at the midsummer evening, you were dressed in green silk and smelled of lilies after the rain. You went into the east wing looking for Liam, but you found me instead." My pulse suddenly stopped. The memory, which had been obscured by alcohol and shame, was now clear, a stranger's lips pressed against my throat. He whispered my name, and he vanished before dawn. "I was dealing with a border incursion," he continued. "By the time I returned, you were gone. Since then, I've been tracking down every green-eyed Omega on this continent." I laughed, my laughter a little hoarse. "I married the wrong wolf. You married someone who doesn't deserve you." He cupped my cheeks in his rough but warm hands. "Nora, Caleb's blood is connected to mine. He is ours." The truth should have terrified me. Instead, it made me feel like I had stepped out of a cage I had mistaken for the world. Liam's opinion I learned of the engagement, like I learned of someone's death. Second-hand news, too late. I saw it in a gossip notification on my cracked phone screen. Nora, radiant, nestled beside King Alpha. Caleb nestled against his waist, as if he had always been there. Elena's confession came that same week. She cried into my pillow. The affair was real, but the pregnancy was a lie, a desperate attempt to keep me after I began to question Nora's infidelity. The child wasn't mine. None of this was mine. I drove through the night, my suit crumpled, my eyes burning. The palace guards recognized my face and knew about the scandal. But Damien didn't forbid me from entering. Whether it was pity or a trap, I didn't care. The banquet hall shimmered like a jewel box. I saw them standing on the other side of the room. Nora, in a silver dress, gleamed in the candlelight. Damien's hand rested gently on her waist. Caleb stood between them, holding a small velvet box. "Nora," my voice cracked like cheap glass. She turned around. For a moment, that old instinctual reaction flashed through her mind. Guilt, longing. But it vanished when Damien's arm slid across her waist, a feeling that was both possessive and tender. Liam, calm, composed, yet heartbreaking. You shouldn't have come. I know what Elena did, that child. I swallowed the rest of my words. They tasted like rust. I was wrong all along. Let's go home. Her fingers intertwined with Damien's. She raised their clasped hands, the diamond on her ring finger gleaming as if issuing a warning. This is my home. He is my destined partner. These words weren't cruel. They simply stated the truth. The surrounding courtroom fell silent, as if a pack of wolves had caught the scent of blood in the air. Damien's gaze met mine, golden, elusive. Then he lowered his head and kissed her. Slowly and deeply, a kiss that could decide the fate of the kingdom. Caleb tugged at Damien's sleeve, eager for the cake. But the king of Alpha broke free, scooped the boy up in his arms, and planted a kiss on his curly hair. I took a few steps back. No one stopped me. The door closed, and with it, the music, the laughter, and the life I had abandoned vanished. Nora's perspective later, after the last glass of wine was finished, Caleb curled up asleep on Damien's chest, like a comma in a sentence. My partner took our son to the nursery. I followed, barefoot on the cold marble. He tucked the boy in and smoothed his hair, which was the exact same color as his own. He asked if he could call me Dad tomorrow. My heart felt like it was slowly and painfully churning. And then you said, I said he was already like this every time he looked at me. Damien turned around. Moonlight streamed through the window, casting his figure in a mythical light. He strode over to me, swept me up in his arms, and my legs involuntarily wrapped around his waist. Simone agreed to dance with me, he whispered close to my throat. We danced for hours. That's not what I want. He pulled me back until my back was against the nursery door. What I want is the kind where I can keep you by my side forever. His lips found mine, carrying the taste of champagne and certainty. Outside, the kingdom slept under our protection. Inside, our son breathed steadily, his cheeks flushed with the rosy glow of sleep. For years, I thought love was a debt that needed to be repaid. Damien made me realize that love is a gift that has already been given, just waiting for me to unwrap it. We stayed until dawn, when the sky was dyed rose gold, and the two wolves and their cubs were finally reunited.